From across Maryland, Virginia, and the District, this is Washington's 24-hour local news leader. News Channel 8's Live This Morning starts right now.
This Memorial Day weekend was the start of fun in the sun for millions of Americans, but it can also mean trouble if you forget that catching all those rays also means you may be catching skin cancer in the process. In our Medical Minute this time, ABC's Dolit Doliwa tells us the answer is to scream for sunscreen.
Memorial Day marks the unofficial start to the summer season. At many beaches, lifeguards are already in place, and so is the sun, shining its powerful rays down on millions of Americans working on their tans, but also increasing their risks of getting skin cancer. Dermatologists warn sun worshippers to reduce their exposure to harmful solar rays by wearing hats and protective clothing, and also using a good amount of sunscreen that protects against both UVA and UVB rays with an SPF rating of at least 15. Sunscreen should be applied liberally every 2 to 4 hours while you're catching your rays. Health experts also tell sunbathers that everyone is at risk, even those who think their darker skin gives them natural protection. African Americans and Latinos have more melanin in their skin, and some think the protective skin pigments mean that they're safer from the sun's rays. Not so, say dermatologists, adding that both dark and light-skinned blacks and Latinos need protection. Even though they suffer fewer cases of melanoma caused by the sun than whites do, they also tend to get diagnosed with skin cancer at more advanced stages, increasing their risk of death. I'm Daljit Dhaliwal, ABC News.
Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the United States. Each year, there are more new cases of skin cancer than the combined incidence of cancers of the breast, prostate, lung, and colon. Something to think about as we discuss the issue more with Dr. Anu Gupta of the Associates in Radiation Oncology. Dr. Gupta has joined us from time to time, and she's good enough to be back with us, and we appreciate it. It's the most common kind of cancer. It is one that a lot more people, frankly, are at risk for than just about all other kinds of cancers. I asked you earlier, is this a case of us finding more cancers because we're looking for them, or because there really are actually more cancers?
I think it's a combination of both. We're becoming more and more aware of the risk factors associated with the development of skin cancer. One of them is just general aging. You can't avoid sun exposure completely. And also diagnoses, as we become more aware of it. So the population's aging and more people are getting their moles and freckles checked out. One
thing is a good thing. The other is sort of a natural consequence, as you say, of just sort of living in the 21st century. Right. All of that having been said, can we hear the warning about using sunscreen enough?
No, you can't, actually. And, a lot of people have this misconception that if they put it on once during the day, that's enough. It actually is not true. You need to actually reapply it every 3-4 hours. And, it's the hardest thing is the children. I mean, they're the ones who need to be protected the most. One good sunburn as a child elevates your risk of melanoma 8 times. So putting the sunscreen on to children, on their faces even, is very important.
We had a discussion in the newsroom earlier today, actually, about SPF numbers. I mean, it is possible. Someone was talking about they were so thrilled they just found 96 SPF. Well, congratulations, but do you really need 96 SPF?
No, generally they say that beyond 45 doesn't do you any good.
Just using it is the important thing.
Right. SPF 45 is generally enough. One, I think, important thing people have to realize when they talk about the risk of skin cancers is to be able to tell the difference between a benign mole and something that needs to be checked out. And as I always tell my patients, it's not your job to figure out what's wrong, but you need to let your physician know. So we talk about the ABCDs of moles. And the one skin cancer you have to be most concerned about is melanoma, because that is the one that can spread. That's the killer. Right, and it can become fatal. So when we talk about moles, we talk about the ABCDs. One, A being asymmetry, meaning a mole that's sort of irregular. B is the borders. The borders of it are irregular. C is the color. The color changes, gets darker and darker. And D is a diameter. It's growing in size. So if you have a mold that looks like that, it needs to be checked out and come off.
When you talk about diameter, usually they say it's the size or bigger of a pencil eraser. If you use that as sort of the guide, and you've got something like that, it is something that needs to be checked out. And the good news here, we can wind this up by saying the treatment rate for skin cancer has gotten so much better now. There are really good treatments out there.
There are some very good treatments out there. One thing I think your audience needs to be aware of that's not realized is the bronzing creams and tanning creams and all that are available on the market. We don't know their safety. They are not FDA approved, so don't make the assumption that because they're over the counter they're okay. And give yourself some false sense of security.
One thing we do know about tanning booths are very dangerous. Stay with us. We're right back after this, and we hope you are too.